sometimes you can miss the obvious, and I most definitely have in this instance. And I've got to thank Rob. I'll pop his post up in a second. But Rob put a post up on yesterday's video, which really got me thinking. And I think sometimes we concentrate, and I speak about myself here, so much on the players that are coming in. And I think certainly for myself on the players that are here, and it's easy to do in a transfer window, of course, because they're important. But you almost sort of forget the importance of players going out. And I just popped Rob's post up there, and it's excellent. And Rob basically goes on to say, and I can't remember it exactly, but he's basically saying, let's not forget who David Moyes has got out of the club. I thought, yes, this is really, really important. It's just as important in shaping his vision of the club as it is the players coming in. Now, I thought for far too long, that West Ham scouted players, I think on ability, yes. And I've said this numerous times over the years, that actually we didn't seem to scout for injury records or personality. I think we're doing that now. I really do. And I think there's evidence with the team on the pitch to suggest that's the case. But the more I looked at Rob's Rob's message on YouTube yesterday on the channel, the more I thought, actually, there's quite a lot of evidence in what he says that goes to support that. Because character is key, and we saw character in abundance, by the way. When in front of 60,000 fans at the London Stadium, there are a few players that really stood out in terms of their character. Gio said in the review there was a nastiness about us, and he did. And if you remember, I spoke particularly about Vladimir Soufal. He sort of loves the combat. I think I might have said in a review, if he hadn't been a footballer, he might have been a cage fighter. You just get that impression, really. He relishes it. So I want to sort of delve a little bit more into that. Before I do, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app, as ever. I'm not delving into the OneFootball app for the transfer gossip today. We'll leave that for tomorrow, because there's still so much to discuss after that wonderful game and that wonderful victory against Leicester City. And certainly, yesterday's video was so much about David Moyes. But if you do want the West Ham news and the transfer gossip, it's in the OneFootball app. Now, the OneFootball app isn't just about transfer news and gossip. There's loads of David Moyes stories there. In fact, all the West Ham stuff is in there, all in one place. It's got every Premier League team, but you just go on the app, download the app, click on West Ham, which you basically say, I follow this team, I follow West Ham. And every day they'll aggregate all the West Ham news. And I'll send a notification to your phone. It's free. Click the link below and download it. There you go. We've been using it for a long, long time. So let's go back to Rob's message there. So who's he got rid of? Just written a little list here, and some of them were contained in Rob's message. Jack Wilshere, full of ability, but actually look at the two things that I said about scouting for: personality and injury record. Okay, look, I've got nothing to say about Jack Wilshere's personality, by the way. He seems like a good lad. So let's just forget that for a second. But the injury record, it was just a no-no. I think maybe you look at that and you think, well, I can't, as a manager, I can't build anything around him, particularly in such a pivotal position as central midfield. He was discarded. Felipe Anderson was discarded, and he tried, by the way. As when David Moyes came in, he tried to do something with Anderson. He was in his first team straight away. Even tried to move him for number 10. Just wasn't really working for him. I think Anderson got a little injury, never got back in the team, and I think we've subsequently seen in some of his, not only his performances for Porto, which they didn't really fancy him, but also you look at some of his social media posts. Certainly, I think it was an outburst from his sister, if I remember that rightly as well. And it was strange and bizarre to say the least, and certainly didn't lend itself to a team ethic. There's a lot of individuality there, if you know what I mean, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to what David Moyes is trying to do. And that's not to say you can't be a character. Far from it. Look at Mikel Antonio and his cardboard cutout of himself, and wonderful. He's got full of personality. Declan Rice, full of personality. There's nothing wrong with personality, but you've got to be a team player, and you never really felt that Anderson was. Sebastian Haller, good player, full of talent as well, but you never thought he was bought into David Moyes' mantra of, you know, don't run, don't play. I say he didn't run, but you always felt he had a little. You felt he was playing with a handbrake on to a certain extent. And I think possibly his quiet demeanour didn't particularly help him, and that's fine. You know, David Moyes might not want a quiet dressing room. I would imagine he probably doesn't. And it looks like a lively place to be. So you can understand why someone like Jesse Lingard was brought in, because he probably fits in with that sort of thing. Roberto, I mean, it was almost the first thing he did. Really ruthless with Roberto. Just get him out. Get him out. And he got Randolph in straight away. I mean, we all watched Roberto, didn't we? And it was an absolute horror show. I mean, a goalkeeper that can't catch a football's a serious problem. Let's be perfectly honest with you. It's a bit like being a swimmer that can't float. You're going to have issues, aren't you? So he got him out, got Randolph in, even though the deal wasn't exceptional, but he just let's get this sorted. Got him out of there. Diangana, I think there's no, and we can't say Diangana had a bad attitude, or he was, you know, or certainly not injury prone particularly. So, but he got him out of there. That's not the best. That's not the best example. There are better examples than that. And I'll give you two more. One of them's a Jetty. He doesn't seem to have any interest in seeing a Jetty play, really. Jetty went to Celtic. I couldn't tell you how. I think he scored a couple of goals and nothing has overly happened. But he certainly, I certainly remember comments at the time where he wasn't. It's something that happened on the training ground. I think David Moyes said something like he didn't even know who he was before coming in. And I can't imagine Moyes doesn't strike me as an overly rude person, so I don't think he'd go in there. I don't think he would be particularly bothered that he hadn't heard who anybody was. But again, he just got him out. Very ruthless, got him out of there. And the other one, of course, is Reece Oxford. I think, if I remember it correctly, he initially did bring him back from loan. He sort of took one look at him, didn't he? Didn't fancy it, and then said, "No, I'm not doing this." And let's be perfectly honest with you, with the exception possibly of Haller at Ajax. I don't know how he's going. These are not a bunch of players who have then gone on to achieve great things. And just look at their contribution to the team. Look at their. I'm not talking about whether they're good or bad people. I'm talking about the determination part of their character, the will to win. You take that, and then you replace that with people like Soufal, with Souček, with Bowen, with Benrahma, people that don't stop running. People that clearly have, and we saw this in the celebrations after the goals, bought into this team ethic. And you start to realise, hold on, this is something that David Moyes is really trying to cultivate and really trying to build here. Soufal was the last person to leave the pitch. Apparently, I'm gutted. I didn't get to the game actually, and I'm gutted, but I'm thrilled. That's just me being selfish. I'm thrilled for everybody that did go. I genuinely am. I'm thrilled for the team, and I was thrilled for players. I mentioned three when I did the player ratings on Patreon. I mentioned Soufal, I mentioned Fornals and Antonio. Three players that really seem to relish being part of a big crowd and the noise that it generated. And I was thrilled for those three in particular. I don't know why those three in particular. It just seemed right. They seem to feed off the crowd. They seem to be even better than their usual excellent selves. So I was absolutely thrilled to see that. I've got to say. And there were some really good battles, some individual battles on there. And if you go back and watch the game again, which I have, it's funny actually. I mean, it's how much I'm enjoying it. I've watched both the Newcastle game and the Leicester game twice. And I've watched the highlights as well, which I just don't do that. And that's how much I'm sort of loving it. And looking for the little nuances in the game. And they were wound up really early. And just apparently Tim Howard, who's obviously goalkeeper under David Moyes at Everton, had said as part of his commentary, or I don't know, I wasn't watching that channel, but he had said that David Moyes was setting traps for Leicester, and that's what Moyes did. So you get the impression that's what he was doing at Everton. And I felt that as well. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, I certainly felt that from a tactical aspect. As I say, there will be other games where we don't let people have their centre-backs have the ball. We'll press them early. But in this occasion, no, we don't do it. Didn't do it against Newcastle either. But I got that impression. But I love that phrase, setting traps. And it's a wonderful thing to see. And it frustrated him a lot. And I've spoken about Sonchu so much. I thought it was a horror show. As I say, he was corner-coded, basically, to use a West Ham term, which obviously I used from the time that Mikel Antonio completely, almost ruined Corner-Cody's career. And I felt that Sonchu was like that. But then, individually, the Leicester players all started to lose their marbles. And I think the first one was that I really noticed after Sonchu was Ricardo, really clattered. He was frustrated because Sonchu had to play a long had to play a long ball to Cresswell, obviously to Ricardo. Didn't get him. Cresswell got it. Cresswell was fouled by Ricardo. But this is, for them to resort to long ball was not particularly Brendan Rodgers-esque, if you like. And then there was Maddison. Maddison got involved with Fornals. And Maddison did foul Fornals, by the way, but he over-complained, and you could tell at this point he was frustrated, which is obviously always a really, really good thing if you can distract anyone from their game, and at anything, at any level. You're dealing with the high echelons of sport when you can put people off their game, because someone like James Maddison is a really good player. I mean, he's been touted as being a £70 million player. I don't think he is, but he's good. That's what I'm saying. He's a good, solid Premier League attacking midfielder, and if you can put him off his game, then you've really struck a killer blow to a team who are sort of dependent on that sort of flair. And if he's worrying about arguing, if he's talking back, as we saw a number of them do, they're not concentrating on their own game. Actually, digress slightly. Reminded me as a dart player called Eric Bristow, the crafty Cockney they called him. And Eric Bristow was a bit ahead of his time in terms of mind games. And I can't remember exactly the player he was playing against, but he was playing against somebody. And obviously everybody's got their style when they address the hockey and they line up and they throw their darts and whatnot. And apparently Eric Bristow said to one of his opponents, he said, "Oh, I was just wondering," he said, "do you hold your breath when you're about to throw or not?" And it was I wish I could remember who was involved in this story, but I'm talking about one of the world's best darts players. Now, one of these world's best darts players had just always thrown the dart. He never even thought about it. The truth is, he didn't know whether he held his breath or whether he didn't. He hadn't even thought about it. But in this game, in this pivotal match, he suddenly thought, he made him doubt himself. He thought, hold on, should I hold my breath? Should I not hold my breath? It was enough to put him off. It's enough to distract him from his game. Didn't play his normal game. There's a darts average. His scoring average is well down. Eric Bristow won the game. The rest is history, as they say. But my point is, I know it's a tenuous point, completely distracted from his game. And I think we've got that in us. Gio spoke about a nasty streak. We do have a nasty streak. You do get the impression that we're willing to play these little games. Soufal, I think he was stood over Thomas, and yes, it was a foul, but he found himself in a position where he was stood astride him, basically straddling Thomas, if you pardon the expression. And he was on top of him, but he wasn't actually touching him. But for Thomas to get up, Soufal would have needed to have moved. He knew what he was doing, but he was sort of engaging with the linesman. He was laughing and saying to the linesman, "Oh, come on, that surely wasn't a foul." It didn't seem like much, but it was sort of 5 to 10 seconds stood on top of somebody when really he could have got off, but he didn't. And the guys underneath him getting agitated, thinking, why is this guy still on top of me? And it was just a fine line between not actually doing anything wrong that would get him into trouble, not staying there long enough, and not actually fouling him or doing anything, but enough encroachment on the opposition player's personal space to annoy him and irritate him. And it has happened time and time and time again. And you've only got to listen to Kasper Schmeichel's comments afterwards. Or even, because the referee had a good game, by the way. A really good game. Because he let a lot go. I'm not just saying that because he did the card. I thought that anyway. And I think I got enough credit in the bank in our post-match reviews when there's been things that have gone against West Ham, and I've said, actually, no, that wasn't a pen. I'll call it as I see it, all right? But that was a red card. But they'd lost it. Brendan Rodgers, actually, after Oliver walked away from the screen, having watched the incident on VAR, Brendan Rodgers told him to F off, told the referee to F off. I mean, he's lucky he didn't get sent to the stands for that. They completely lost it by this point, and they'd lost it because of this collective winding up. Casper Spiker, I did have to laugh, turned around and he said, OK, look, he did catch a lad. Oh, no, Casper, he didn't catch him. Catch him suggests a graze. He brushed him. He just about made contact. He didn't catch him. It wasn't a deflected bit of contact. It was a bone-breaking challenge in which everybody, well, I say everybody, everyone else is lucky his leg wasn't broken. It didn't catch him. He caught him square on. His foot couldn't have been any more in the middle of his leg. Didn't catch him one part of his foot. The whole foot, all the studs made contact with basically all of Fornell's shin. Wouldn't be surprised if Fornell misses the next game, by the way. That's gonna, as brave and as wonderful a competitor as Fornell's is, that thing is gonna be seriously swollen. He's gonna look like a Michelin man this morning. Well, his ankle is anyway. So don't be surprised at that. But anyway, my point is, these players were really, really rolled up, and it just goes back to what I said at the start of the video. We got characters in the team now. Everybody's fighting for the same cause. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it with a crunching tackle or actually just a little word. I don't know. Oh, what's the guy's name? What's the centre back's name? It's not Sancho, the other one. Name escapes me. The other left centre back. I know you're all shouting it at the phone now. He didn't stop talking to him, Antonio. Didn't stop talking to him. I again watched it for the second time. Blah 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 blah. I don't know what he was saying to him. But even if he was talking to him about the latest episode of Better Call Saul that he's seen, or The Walking Dead, or anything else, it still would have been bloody annoying. Just carried on talking, smiling, and again, not anything to do anything wrong. But he'd say something, make a little joke, and he'd sort of, but sort of pat him on the back. But you got the impression it was a hey, all right. There's just a lot of that going on. I like it. A little bit naughty, a little bit feisty. Very, very enjoyable. Great point, Rob. Get out the dead wood. Bring these new players in. And when you bring them in, you scout for character, you scout for personality, and more importantly, you scout for injury. So, on we go. Onwards and upwards. We go to the next game. Maybe a player comes in beforehand. I'll leave it an additional day before another transfer roundup. That's it. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.